Yo, welcome in everybody. This is the MLS Live podcast for match day 2 of the MLS season 2023. I am Cooper, also known as The Prophet, at Sports Prophet on Twitter, and I'm with my co-host Garrett at Just Some Footy. We got a lot to talk about today. First thing is a little recap of last week. I believe we went 2-3, which is okay. I mean, it's no big deal. We'd like to go 5-0 every single week, but hopefully this week is the week. But we're excited to get into it. And Garrett, how we doing?
Good, man. Good. Week one was not fun. I did not enjoy it.
A
But
lot of
that's
rust.
because, well, it was just like, so, you have to go back, you have to reassess, you have to figure out what happened and stuff like that. And honestly, I just didn't put that it's week one into factor, right? Like I knew who these teams are. I know how they're going to look in a couple of months.
Yep.
And for the most part, what I thought was correct in the stats, but it's week one and you have to add that variance into it. These teams are going to have rust. These teams aren't going to be, properly finishing their chances uh, due to lack of playing time. They're not all fit yet. So
Right.
it's a little annoying when you look back on that and you like the reads, but the teams just aren't up to snuff yet, so to speak. Um, but that's the point of it, right? You live and learn and you get better and you keep it moving. Can't
A-
get too high, can't get too low.
Absolutely. Yeah. Even keel all day. I want to remind viewers real quick. We did make a Twitter for the podcast. That's going to be at MLS Live Podcast on Twitter. Pretty simple. And before we get into all the meat and potatoes of the show, I also want to remind you to like the video. That helps us out a lot, and definitely subscribe so you don't miss anything moving forward. I honestly believe that this is the most comprehensive and in-depth MLS podcast, on YouTube. I don't think anybody's doing it this way. The way that we're doing it, combining it with the betting expertise and analysis on top of that. So we're putting a lot of work into this and really trying to give you guys a good product and hopefully some winning results. But with that, let's go ahead and get into our first segment of the show every week, which is going to, of course, be player news. um, First of all, let's talk some transfer news, Garrett. um, so Bowley, 29-year-old striker, Ivory Coast native, comes over from Hungary from Ferencváros, who is kind of like, he's pretty much a stud, or not, he's not a stud. Ferencváros is kind of the king of that league in Hungary, right? I went back and looked. He was starting, kind of on and off in 2021. He had 2 Champions League goals. There's been a ton of like anticipation and talk from the Portland Timbers camp about bringing in a 9. Is this the answer, or what's going on with this move?
So anyone's better than Nias. Like that's the simple answer. That dude just looks lost when he's out of the pitch. He doesn't make. I mean, he's not making runs. He's not making good passes. That dude just does not help his team really in any way. Um, there's been talk for months about Portland getting a 9, and this just feels underwhelming after all that time, after all that work to get it across the line. I mean, this dude's got experience. He's got Europa experience. He's got Champions League experience. He's 29. This is no youngin that they're bringing in, so
Yeah.
he should be able to contribute and help them. It's just underwhelming after you spend this much time talking about a 9 coming in. I He's coming in from what I understand on a TAM deal, so he's not going to be a DP. So I don't know if that leaves room for them to keep working on something else, or if they're just going to wait and see how this pans out. Um, so it's a good move for Portland. It's just not the move that I think people really hoped for. But I mean, Portland should take anything at a 9 at this point.
Yeah, I mean, if you watched the MLS After Dark match last night, we had a special Monday edition of MLS After Dark. Evander looked good. I mean, he is as advertised. Sporting Kansas City kind of shadowed him, and they obviously had a good game plan as well. But they need somebody to pair with Evander, because Evander is the creator that team needs. I just, like you said, I don't know if this is the long term answer. And does he even start? Like, does he come in and start
So what?
over Nice-Goda?
Anytime you've got stuff like this, you've got visa concerns, and they always take there is no like clear cut timetable on visas. I mean, you have
Yeah,
some teams that get them done what seems like expedited and super quick, and then you've got other teams that drag and take forever for with it, Atlanta and their their acquisition of the big Greek freak, and New York Red Bulls are still working on a visa thing to get Vinit Vizier. So
yeah,
that's always up in the air, and you really don't know unless somebody breaks the news or you just see that dude in the lineup.
yeah. Absolutely. It's going to be interesting. I think Portland. My initial takeaway from that match last night, Portland and Sporting Kansas City, I felt like we were watching two playoff teams. I mean, I felt like those were two good teams. I mean, I'm not
Oh,
saying,
we watched two different games.
well, I'm not saying that they're going to be hoisting the cup. I'm just saying I think those are two playoff teams come into the year. But
There is no way with Portland's defense the way it is right now. And remember, they traded away to Aloma. There's no way with Portland's defense as it is currently constructed that they sniff the playoffs.
okay, hot take, fair enough. Um, all right, moving on to our next piece of news here. We are looking at an acquisition from the Chicago Fire, signed Georgios Koutsias, another Greek. Several Greeks have been coming over to Major League Soccer this year. I'm going to be honest. I'm going to defer to you on this one because I haven't seen this guy play. I've looked at his stat sheet a little bit. He spent some time with PAOK, who's a Greek giant in the Greek Super League. What's the scoop, Garrett?
Well, that's his parent club. He's been on loan, but that's his parent club. This is a guy that a lot of European scouts are apparently high on.
Okay.
And Chicago's getting this across the line, bringing him in. I'm not going to bore you with MLS rules, but bringing him as an under 22 initiative. So he's a DP, but he's an under 22 guy, which lets him bend the rules a little bit. But this has all the vibes of a really good signing for the Fire, where they're going to turn around in 24, 36 months and flip this dude. I'm not going to say for top dollar, but they're going to get a hefty payday from this guy. This guy has stud potential. So really good signing for them. They definitely needed somebody. Chicago also brought in Kai Kamara, I think the fourth all-time goal scorer in MLS. Just the vet. I think he's been on just 11 teams now. I don't know. He's been on a
Yeah.
ton of MLS teams. So they're obviously not happy with their striking options right now to bring in Kamara and then this young Greek.
Yeah.
So I like what they're doing. But yeah, this dude is probably the biggest headliner of the week, so to speak, in terms of player news.
Okay. Interesting take there. It's funny you said that they're probably flipping this guy. It's probably not what Fire fans want to hear, to be honest, because it's not like they're a playoff caliber team flipping a young star. Like, at this point, if I'm a Fire fan, I'm wanting to hang on to all the talent that I can.
No, but I mean, like if you're flipping him in 3 years, right? Like when he's 24,
Right.
25,
Okay.
you're fine. But that's the MLS is a feeder league for Europe. Like players
Right.
are coming here to get quality play time, to showcase their talents, to be able to get to bridge that gap over into Europe. So, and that's why the under 22 initiative was created, so that teams could bring in really young, talented prospects and still make it work with the salary cap and all that stuff, and be able to churn out these profitable players for MLS. So that any under 22 initiative player, you have to assume is going to be sold like at some point for profit. That's just how the league is set up. But this dude has legit talent.
Awesome. Looking forward to seeing him out there for Chicago. I've got some friends that live in the Chicago area and that are Fire fans, so they are in the depths of hell at this point as far as being a Major League Soccer fan. So I wish this kid all the best. Hopefully he comes in and contributes. But let's move on to our next piece of player news. LA Galaxy. Obviously, they had to replace Araujo, who has departed to Barcelona. And they did that in the form of signing right back Lucas Caligari from Brazilian club Fluminense. Again, I haven't seen this guy play. South American footy is not my area of expertise. I'm sure you'll have an opinion on this guy.
The main thing about this is another young guy to place Araujo, who went to Barcelona. Um, and like that, Araujo going to Barcelona looks great for the Galaxy because it says you come over here, we can get you to top clubs in the world, not just in top leagues. So
Right.
that is big. But Galaxy, from what I'm hearing, really see this dude as a like swap. So if that's true, then the Galaxy offense could still be humming this season. It was just those are big boots to fill as Araujo led the Galaxy in offensive in a ton of offensive metrics, passes,
Yeah.
crosses, chances created, all this other stuff. As he just did so much from that wing back position as he constantly pushed up. So I am interested to see this dude play. If they do feel like he is a like for like, then he should be fun to watch.
Fantastic. Okay, one more piece of player news, and then we'll move on to our weekly predictions. But this is definitely worth noting and worth talking about. Facundo Torres, Orlando City player here. He just finalized a $30 million release clause, which, from what I've been reading, would make him that's the biggest release clause in MLS history if he ends up getting released and that has to be paid. Um, I guess like I've seen him play and like I'm fully up to date with this Orlando squad. 9 goals, 8 assists last season. I guess I didn't realize like he was like that. I didn't realize he was like that.
Oh
Like
no,
$30 million release clause.
it's Almada and then Torres right underneath him as far as like ceilings here. So
Yeah.
I mean, it was a big deal when they brought him over. And what's big about this extension is that I think it actually keeps him in Orlando till 2027 if he's not sold, which is massive. So that dude obviously got a big payday. But yes, the $30 million release clause, if somebody was to pay it, that beats Miguel Almiron's 27 million transfer record in MLS from Atlanta. And so that's the big deal here is you're bringing in a player who could be a record transfer fee out of the league if he's sold, which is just good for everybody. It's good for the team, good for the league, all of that. I was actually surprised at the length of the contract,
Yeah.
uh, but I mean that this is who they're building around, which is smart. I mean, this is the kind of talent you should be building around. Um, I do kind of want to see what this does for Almeida and also Velasco in Dallas. Those
Yeah.
three all kind of came over at the same time. Were kind of in the same talent range. Velasco below those two, obviously. Uh, but no, this sets a new standard, which is nice. It shows that the league is doing big things.
Yeah, what a flip this would be too, because when Torres came over from Uruguay, he was a $7.3 million signing. So 7 to 30 would be quite a flip for an MLS team, and definitely would set quite a precedent. Um, but that's going to wrap up player news for week 2, match day 2. So we are going to go ahead and hop into predictions, which is probably everybody's favorite part of the show. It's definitely mine. Um, Garrett, if you want to start us off with your first prediction for this week, you go ahead and hop into it.
Yeah, man. I'm just putting my favorite spot on the board here on the show, and it's FC Cincinnati. I'm taking the draw no bet here as they are on the road. You get a great price at plus 155, but I'm
Yep.
not gonna lie, I will have a sprinkle on the money line as well. It's just too good to
Wow.
pass up.
Okay.
Um, this is just I wanted to see what Cincy looked like without Brenner, right? Like that was the worry. So Brenner's with the team. I don't know if he's going to play this weekend, but I saw enough in week 1 that I'm not concerned if he's not playing. Um, they created enough chances with a 1.74 expected goal total. So I was happy to see that. The Burrell, the wingback, he looks like he might have leveled up. Like he's 22 from Argentina, been with FC Cincinnati for a minute, and he might literally have been taking that next step now. He looked great in week one. In Orlando, we talked about it in the preseason show. This team was going to need to take time to gel. If they don't get that penalty against the New York Red Bulls, that game ends 0-0 in a game where the Red Bulls probably should have won. Outside of the penalty, they only had a 0.28 expected goals.
Wow.
They just were not creating. Now the Red Bulls defense is tough, and that style is tough to play against. But they were dysfunctional. They were not gelled, and they got bailed out by a penalty, which is the way it goes sometimes. So I like the look since it created. I'm okay with fading Orlando even here at home. And what I think should be a push at worst here. I mean, this Cincy team is going to challenge Orlando consistently. They play very direct like Red Bulls. Red Bulls dominated that game. Cincy plays a very similar style where they are looking to hit you on the counter, especially when on the road, and play very direct, which just plays into all of the pieces they have. But they played a complete game last week. I don't think if you care about player ratings, there was nobody on that team who had lower than a 7.1. Like everyone had great
Wow.
games. And so no, I this line stood out to me immediately. Orlando also played the CONCACAF Champions Leagues 2 days later. So I
Yep.
don't know if they're going to rotate here or I assume they have to. I assume they have to rotate a little bit because they're not just going to punt on Champions League. That doesn't make any
Right.
sense. Especially, I think the first leg is at home, and if it is, then I definitely expect rotation because home is where they want to grab the advantage here. So if I'm not getting, I'm already getting a dysfunctional Orlando side. If I'm not getting a full 11 Orlando side, then this line makes no sense to me considering what Cincy have in the barrel right now.
Absolutely. I'm just looking right now. The first leg of the CONCACAF Champions League match between Orlando and Tigres is going to be in Monterrey, Mexico. But I wanted to just kind of ask you about Brenner because he did log 30 minutes in the first game against Houston. So, um, do we
I,
have any reason why he wouldn't play here?
no, I expect him to play. I guess I mean like start, right?
Yeah.
Like obviously there were fitness concerns if they're only going to give him 30 minutes. It might have been a little bit of a punishment for him, taking an extended leave of absence back home after the Forest deal fell through.
Yep.
But no, I expect him to play. He was in great form, but earlier in the preseason, I think since he showed that they do okay without him here.
Yep.
But he's icing on the cake for me here. So no, this line stood out like a sore thumb.
Yeah, it did to me too. And I'm gonna be honest, like I'm gonna be involved in Cincinnati this week officially. Absolutely. Um, I think that Cincinnati is taking the next step this year. This is a textbook spot. Orlando has got a look ahead game in Champions League, which is, I mean, Champions League is Champions League. That's a bigger deal than a league game. So they've got the look ahead spot, and like you mentioned, Orlando did not look like world beaters in match day one against New York Red Bull at all. I mean, they were fortunate, very fortunate to come away with 3 points there. Um, New York Red Bulls outplayed them for much of that game. So, and I mean, I had a list of like, I would say 5 teams that I wrote down that looked smooth, that didn't look super rusty. And Cincinnati was one of those 5 teams. So really like this spot here. I think the draw no bet is very generous. I already have a feeling this line is going to move. It just feels like one of those MLS lines that's going to move in Cincinnati's direction. So sharps are going to get to this. They probably already are. So if you're watching, definitely jump on the Cincinnati draw no bet here. I think we got a really good chance to cash a plus money play on Garrett's first play. I'm going to hop into my first pick here for week 2, looking at San Jose Earthquakes and Vancouver, both teams to score in over 2.5 at minus 105. I also think this one might get steamed to the over as we near kickoff here on Saturday. Just look, everything about both of these teams. These were two teams. So San Jose goes to Atlanta. Ebobisse scores in the 12th minute. Great counterattacking goal. They looked pretty good all match. They probably outplayed Atlanta for like 60 minutes of that game. And if it wasn't for Almeida just putting on his Superman cape, they've got 3 points on the road at Atlanta and one of the toughest places to play in MLS. So, excuse me. I thought San Jose looked pretty dang good. Ebobisse looked good. It's always good for. I know we've got golden boot tickets on Ebobisse, so that was nice to go ahead and get the first one. And then Vancouver, that game was weird because Vancouver might have had the most dominant first half in week one out of anybody. Like they looked like a machine, like butter, just so smooth first half. The midfield with Kubas and Schoaf, like it was just silky smooth, like as beautiful as it could have possibly be, especially considering that it was week one. So, obviously they left their foot off the gas a little bit. They had some chances to put that game away and they didn't. But I'm looking at this matchup here. I don't see how we don't get goals. San Jose, they're better than they were last year. And last year they scored goals at home. Vancouver looked really good, looked really smooth in attack. Neither defense is really great. So I really think we get goals in this one. And I'm going to take the both teams to scoring over 2.5 at what I think is a great price.
Yeah, I like the price here. I do like both teams to score as a parlay piece. If you're like one, if you don't want to sweat a third goal, um, but this Vancouver's a team where right before kick, I took their team total over 1.5 at home and could not believe that didn't hit in the first 30 minutes, which is
Yeah.
how they were playing. You said it best. They had one of the most dominant first halves, really one of the most dominant 30 minutes of any game
Yep.
uh, of match week one. And then they just fell. They didn't come out of the locker room at halftime. Like they just didn't, and it killed them. So a disappointing result for them. So I expect them to be hungry and coming out here. San Jose, yeah, I liked that counterattack. I really felt like what we expected with that new defensive midfielder let what they wanted to do best, which was transition, and the attacking players get to stay up a little bit more so they
Yep.
can actually contribute in that transition as opposed to having to track all the way back to help defend. So no, I like this. I like this look a lot. I do believe there will be goals here. And this might be Vancouver's always been a second half team, but I did look at both teams to score first half here. I think there's a ton of value if it starts slow and you only get one goal or it's 0-0 at halftime. That you've
Yep.
got a great both teams to score second half look there, or getting the over 1.5 second half, depending on how the game starts out. But no, I like goals there. I agree with you.
Yeah, it's hard to see a game script here where it doesn't like the flow is not open. Like it's really hard for me to see these two teams matching up and not having open play. I would be shocked. It's just stylistically love the matchup. But all right, on to your second play, Garrett.
Yeah, so I'm going to parlay this second play here, a little combo going on, and Q kind of gave it away a little bit with him posting LAFC -1. But I'm going to do LAFC money line to go along with Colorado under 3.5.
Okay.
And I'll get to Colorado in a second. LAFC though, since 2018, I'm not counting 2020 because they all played in Florida and during that tournament because of the pandemic. But since 2018, LAFC's only lost 7 home games. They're playing a terrible Portland side. Again, Portland has issues where they're hurt, they're banged up. I mean, Yimi Chara went off with a hamstring like the 30th minute, and they've already ruled him out. Like, so that
Yeah.
that is a serious hamstring injury. Um, they don't have a 9. Bali's not going to be there for this game.
Aspria
So
not available.
Spree is still not available.
Yeah.
And this Portland side literally looks like they don't know how to play with the talent, the level of Evander. And Evander's better than Valeri. Like I'll just go ahead and say, like, the talent level is better than that. And this Valeri, I mean, Evander was hunting. Any time Portland was close to scoring, Evander was involved or around the ball. Like he was just hunting for the pass, hunting for the rebound, and it literally just looked like the players didn't know how to play with him yet. They just don't know what to do. Which with that player, Evander needs to get the ball. Like you need to be force feeding him the ball and let him do what he does, and everyone else benefits from that. So
And he looked
Portland,
frustrated too.
oh, I mean, I would be too because he was running, he was making great runs, he was in space. Um, I mean, he literally made some Kansas City players look foolish when he dribbled. Like it was just the way he moves. It was the dude is just oozing talent, and Portland just hasn't figured out. And not even the coaches have, just the players have not figured out how to gel with him yet. LAFC is the first game because, of course, Mother Nature stepped in and ruined the El Trafico at the Rose Bowl,
Mm.
which has been moved till I think is a better with July 4th. Like that's a great game to have on July 4th. Um, Anyways, so yeah, I think LFC can run all over this Portland team. But with it being again LFC's first game, just give me a win. If I get a win, I think it's like minus 215 or something right now for the money line. I'm gonna slap that with Colorado Rapids under 3.5. Yes, the same Rapids team that gave up 4 goals to Seattle. Uh it's Colorado's different when they're at home. When they're playing in Commerce City, when they have that elevation advantage, they're just different. Just the last 2 seasons, so 2022 and 21, they're averaging 0.85 goals against at home.
Hmm.
15 goals against in 17 home games last season, 14 goals against in 17 home games the season prior. Like player teams just don't come there and score at will on Colorado. Colorado's also missing their leading scorer from last year in Rubio. He's injured still. He's going to be out a couple of weeks after having some minor knee surgery. So I don't know where the goals come for Rapids, and I don't know where the goals come for KC in this matchup. KC's defense looked better. Now, granted, Portland was dysfunctional, but KC looked better. I liked Volodare, the center back they added. He was active, hunting the ball, looked fearless. So that was good to see. Um, and Portland only had a 0.53 expected goals total at home. Portland usually thrive at home. KC usually leak goals, as far as we've seen the past couple of seasons. So I like the defensive performance from Kansas City, but playing in Commerce City is different. I think 3.5 is a great cushion here to be able to get plus money. So even if you get goals and it's 2-1, we're still covering. So when I could get plus money for these two, I fell in love with it.
Yeah, absolutely. We talked about Portland a little bit earlier today before the show, and I know it was the first game. Like I realize that. I know that they're banged up, but what'd you say? 0.35 expected goals at home?
Yeah.
Yeah. How is that going to travel to the defending champs? Like, how is that going to travel to the best team in the league? It's probably not going to get any better. Like, the Portland is in a position where they need help. Like you said, Bally is not going to be available. They're banged up. They can't plug in Aspria. One of the Char brothers got hurt. So definitely, even if LAFC is a little rusty or something like that, there's a lot of wiggle room for them to get the job done and get the 3 points at home. So I really like LAFC money line as a parlay piece here. And then yeah, the Rapids, man, like I almost like Kansas City in this spot a little bit. And I know it's elevated. I know, but like there's nothing to like about the Rapids team for me at all.
But so for me, there hasn't been a lot to like about the Rapids team in a minute.
Yeah,
But they were on something like a 27 game unbeaten streak at home until Nashville came in last season and beat them.
that's a
Like
good
they
point.
just it's just different. They are night and day home and away. And so for me in that particular matchup, I think a draw is the best Kansas City could hope for.
Okay, fair enough. And it's a little too
That's
juicy to be
that's
interested in the
that
Kansas
smells
City
like
double champs.
a low scoring Colorado win. Because I have to think so. Colorado's coach is one of the better center backs to ever play for the United States men's team. I I don't even think Seattle looked great in that match. I think Colorado just looked so bad, and so I have to think that defense is going to be the focus here. Right, you're
Yeah.
going home. let's make it a fortress. Let's secure our back line. Let's, I don't know, clear the ball when we're in our final third, and like just do the simple things, right? And if they do that, I think this under comes in no problem.
Yeah, if Jordan Morris is scoring 2 goals on you at this point, in his career, you've got some real issues. But, hope yeah. All right, moving on to, like this play, and I really like the plus money, by the way. You've got some good spots for good value today. Um, all right, my second play, I'm gonna be looking at Chicago, who has not played their first game yet. This will be their season opener at home, hosting NYCFC, who we successfully faded last week to the tune of a 2-0 Nashville victory, which was a win for the show. And that was a solid read, a solid win. Um, Man, New York City is just toothless, to be quite honest. These guys, I watched every minute of that game. Pareja had a couple of long distance tries, but he never really got close. And then Magno was the only guy that showed any like spark or explosiveness whatsoever. And he can't do it by himself. He's just not. He needs some service. He needs some help. He didn't have any of it at all. New York City FC. Um, I think they created like less. Let me see. I have it. So 0 big chances, 0.38 expected goals, and they only managed to create 3 corners against Nashville. So I mean, those are the remnants of just an absolutely just no attack at all, like no danger whatsoever. I was never uncomfortable watching that game. I was anxious in the first half because I bet the game and I want Nashville to win, and they were squandering some chances. But once they got up, I was comfortable. I was like, dude, New York's got nothing. Like they've got no firepower whatsoever. Um, Chicago last season, this might surprise some people, but they were 21st out of 28 in expected goals allowed defensively. So actually, a top, one of the better defensive teams analytically in Major League Soccer last season. They get 3 of their 4 back line returning this year. And the only offensive spark that they had, John Duran, he's now off to Aston Villa in the Premier League. So, I know they're bringing in the Greek kid. I assume there's no way he's going to be available this quickly. But still, love the under 2.5 here at even money. I think that this game is like, I don't know where the goals come from. I think this game is maybe worst case scenario, like a 1-1 draw.
Yeah, no, this game is so interesting because to be able to get the under 2.5 at even money, like I expected a little bit of juice on it.
Yep.
NYC's biggest problem is they're trying to play Magno as a false nine, and that dude's a winger.
Hmm.
He's not a forward. He's not a striker. I mean, like there are scouts out there that say he's a Champions League. He could be a Champions League, like we're talking about like UEFA Champions League level winger, but he's
Wow.
not a he's not a striker. So
Right.
you've literally taken your best player and just put him in a hole, thinking that hopefully this fixes it because we don't have an answer here for the striker spot. We sold Tati, we sold Haber. We don't have an answer, and Magno's just not a false nine. Like I mean, I was at that game, and that dude was working hard, and it's just he doesn't fit that role. And so, yeah, any team in MLS will take you taking shots from outside the box all day long. Well, maybe
Absolutely.
not if you're playing Atlanta United, but any other team uh, can shoot from outside the box all day long, and no one's going to sweat that. And that's all New York City are going to do that I can see. Like you need Magno penetrating from the wings into the box, and you're not going to get that with him playing a false nine. So yeah, I, coming into Chicago, which is Chicago's been a pretty good defensive team. Now there's some difference there. Like Salanina is with Chelsea now, so they're probably not running out Brady, the 18-year-old, who's another big goalkeeping prospect that's been in their system. But yeah, Chicago's not going to threaten much, I don't think. NYC are going to struggle because I really think Chicago packs it in a little bit. And plus money is a great price for this line.
Fantastic. Love to hear it. Love that we're on board on this one. All righty. Well, that's 2 picks from each of us this week. Kind of a quality over quantity approach to the show, which hopefully you guys appreciate. We just want to give you guys solid information and good looks, and hopefully provide an edge for you guys in the MLS betting market. Last segment of the show, definitely my favorite. We are going to the Profit and Footy super collaboration, which is where I give one of my favorite spots of the week. Footy gives one of his favorite spots of the week. We put them together, and we win. So let's get to it. There we go. Okay, sorry about that. I'm self-producing here today. All right, so I'm gonna double dip on the Chicago Fire New York City game, and I'm gonna take the alt total under 3.5 goals, which priced around -250, -260. We just covered that, so there's not a lot more that I really need to say about it. I think this is a 1-0, 1-1 game, and I don't see enough shot volume. I don't see enough chances. Stylistically, like Garrett mentioned, Chicago probably kind of packs it in at home and kind of keeps things in front of them, which I really like for this. I just cannot see this game getting over 3.5 goals from what we saw from New York City in the first game and what we know about Chicago. So that's going to be my first leg and contribution to the Super Collab.
And I do like whenever trying to parlay a total, if I'm going under, getting it up to 3.5, because the percentage drop from a 2.5 to 3.5 is just massive.
Yep.
So I think it always gives you a really nice cushion for a parlay piece, especially on a play you already like the under anyway. So the double dipping makes sense here if you really love it like that. And then yeah, I said the Sounders didn't look great against Colorado Rapids, or the more as the Rapids were bad, but that doesn't mean the Sounders aren't a good team right now,
Right.
especially because they don't have to sweat CONCACAF Champions League like everyone else. Unlike the other Champions Leagues, the winner does not automatically qualify for the next season, so they're not in it this year. And this is just a spot at home. Like they have one of the really talking points of the season was they want to make home field advantage. They want to bring that back. They want it to be a home field advantage. One team that does not ever do great on the road is Real Salt Lake.
Yeah.
I think this is a better Salt Lake team than in years past, but they still just don't do great on the road. They have 23% win percentage on the road in the last 2 seasons. It's just
Wow.
bad. It's just bad. They played great in Salt Lake, but not so much traveling. So I like what I saw with Seattle. I mean, their expected goal total was over 4 against the Rapids. So this feels like a good spot to, if for some reason they lay a dud, it's hard to see them losing. So if this pushes and you just, cash a small profit on the under 3.5 for the Chicago Fire, I think you'll take it. But I think the Sounders should get a win here against a Salt Lake team that doesn't travel great. So I think this is a good look. And when you put them together, I think you get a really attractive price considering the legs.
Yeah, I like this. Any word on Rui Diaz for this match?
No word. But they were fine. They moved the ball around. They will stretch Salt Lake. So it's always nice when your star striker plays, but if not, I saw enough week 1 that shows that they can create without him right now.
Yeah, I thought they looked pretty good considering week 1, and they'll definitely, there will be no lack of confidence for the Sounders veteran group of guys. I love the push protection on this super collaboration spot. Like you said, if they lay a dud or if something goofy happens and this game somehow ends in a draw, you're not losing. You're still getting partially paid on this super collab. So, really good spot for this one. But that is pretty much a wrap for today. We got 4 predictions out to you guys. One super collaboration. Of course, we talked about player news at the beginning of the show, like we always do. I just want to remind you guys one more time, a huge favor. We do this for free. We love MLS. We're trying to give you guys an edge in the betting market. Just subscribe to the channel, please, so you don't miss anything, and hit the thumbs up on the video as well, because that really helps us out a lot. But that's pretty much
Yes.
everything for me. What's up, Garrett?
Yes, please like and subscribe. Just throwing out, if you're looking at other games this week, just going to throw out some quick takes for you. MLS has always had a home field advantage. 9 of 13 teams, the home teams, 9 of 13 matches week one, the home team won. The
Wow.
over unders were kind of a toss up at 2.5. They kind of broke even. Big teams with short rest and a look ahead for CONCACAF Champions League in Austin, Philly, and Orlando. They played on 2 days rest after this weekend. Vancouver plays on 3-8. I like LAFC even though they're in the Champions League because they don't play again until 3-9. Like that, their CONCACAF Champions League match is the latest of them all. So just things to think about as you're looking to place your bets this weekend. Best of luck to whatever you're on, and thanks so much, guys, for tuning in.
Thank you, guys. See you next week.